But today we're going to be focusing on
These are yours.
this area, because sad is freeze energy. So we got to hang out here instead of here. So we hang out here, we can trigger these feelings in the other person if we hang out on this side. But in order to hang out on this side, we got to have discipline, standards, values, and our own groundedness. So we're hanging out in our own beingness, our soul. And if we stay here and stay abstract,
Neat.
we gotta mute Leslie. Sorry. We stay here and just try stuff and just tend to ourselves, that'll trigger freeze in the other person. But don't worry about that too much. We'll cover this, or you can go over this link if you want to on your own time. And then to go back to earlier meeting, we're covering the pity circle. Okay, Leslie's outside now. So pity circle, codependents hang out in sympathy, so that's where they join pity. Though codependents also do antipathy because they oppose negative feelings and they want to cut off other people. So you're just as antipathetic as narcissists, except narcissists probably start with antipathy. So you typically, most codependent narcissists bounce back and forth here. You don't really get good at apathy. Though narcissists are probably better at apathy than you are. So if you get good at apathy, then you can up your game. Because once the narcissist gets you hooked, you can't be apathetic anymore. You're invested, which means you have to chase them. Once you're chasing, you're losing. They just want you to chase. Because now they got a reaction out of you. They can now predict your behavior. Now they can see you.
So they're taking you to the antipathy.
They want you to oppose them so that you're following them. So now they can track you. So let's go with this metaphor. Okay, here's a setup. Has anyone remembered Predator from 1987? Arnold Schwarzenegger prime movie days. So this is a clip from Predator. Predator is an alien monster that has invisibility and superpowers. And right here, he shut off his invisibility shield because he doesn't, I don't know, makes him look more scary. But Arnold was swimming in the water and he climbed in the mud, so he's got mud on his body. But this is a simulation of what the Predator sees. His vision is different than ours. So he's tracking heat signatures, let's say. So. There's a signature, but otherwise there wasn't anything. So then he tracks the heat signature. And it's nothing. And Arnold gets this. Mud. He can't see me. So that's where Arnold realized that if he had mud, now he had camouflage. Because one-on-one, going against this predator, lose battle. Because the predator is bigger, he's got armor, he's got alien weapons. And the predator's killed all the rest of his team, I think, by now. I gotta rewatch the movie. Now, this is what codependents want to do at meetings. This is earlier in the movie. They spot the predator. You see the narcissist. See the word salad. Right there, you see the eyes. So you sort of know where they're at, but it's still fuzzy. Then he runs away. That's hit and run. And then you codependent chase after him. And maybe you get a little small injury, but he's gone. And what happens is when one codependent cries victim, everyone jumps in and starts attacking and shooting all the bullets. And pulling out the big guns. And wasting all your ammo. You feel empowered. Get nothing done. Destroy everything. Then you stop after you're out of ammo, or you feel strong again. You stop. But it doesn't do anything. You just wasted all your ammo. Narcissists use hit and run tactics. Like any standard distance warfare. They've already run away and you're throwing all your energy into a ghost. Pattern continues on and on and on and on. That's why you don't get anywhere. You have to trap the opponent first before you use your weapons. How do you trap the opponent? You can use freeze back on them. They're using freeze to get you to stop and get confused. Then they can attack, they run away. Then after you see what happens, they try to attack them, but they're long gone and you waste your bullets.
How do you get a narcissist to freeze?
Ha! That's the second half of the meeting. We're not there yet. We got to catch Carlos up and the other people that are showing up late. But it's Saturday prime time, so that's why we might need to move it to a more convenient time. So that's a good question as a teaser. So how do we get the narcissist to freeze? Is that what the question was? Yeah, that's the second half. We will try to address that. But first, you have to understand how you freeze. If you don't understand how you freeze, then it's hard to project how other people freeze. If you can see how your brain gets stuck and freezes, then you just have to superimpose that into the narcissist. Because you and the narcissist are both human. We all freeze. We all want to know more information. So an example, like last week at the after party, we had a guest narcissist join into the party, who was a friend or acquaintance of one of the members. And then he started instantly interacting with the group and me and whatnot. And he was fishing, or initially he was trying to get a reaction. So I called him out and said, sounds like you're fishing. You're fishing. And he agreed because it was true. He was trying to get a reaction. But he still was fishing because he didn't get a good read because he was still frozen. When you're fishing, you're trying to get a reaction. You're still searching. You're somewhat in freeze mode. So he couldn't get a reaction. So then he opened with vulnerability and I threw something out. I gave him a hook to give him something to work with. So he like when it says like, how are you vulnerable? So I said something like, oh, I'll throw something out here since I know your context. Oh, I was a virgin till 27. And then he instantly got a hook. And he tried to escalate that and said, oh, so are you one of those incel guys? And incel stands for involuntarily celibate. So it's a small community of usually geeky guys who are 20-something who can't get laid and they're really angry. So they spend their whole life attacking the world because they don't have any game. So he tried to bait me there. So then I escalated. I saw what he was doing and I just took the attack and flipped it, escalated. So then he even went to like Elliot Rodgers. So I disarmed the attack and he still didn't have anything. So he had to fish more because it didn't bother me. It bothered him. So now I had something that hooked him. Him being good at the game planted in my head. I now know where he is. He still doesn't know where I am.
Okay.
Then he got bored with me and then went with these two other guys who were part of this group who just started spilling their story to a narcissist, which I don't know why they don't listen to my instructions. They can't help it. They can't help but overshare. So the narcissist started feeding on them. And then later on, I jumped in and gave him a little jab about his poor game because he wants to be good at the game. That's what he said earlier. And then I gave an analogy, said, yeah, you're good at the game. You're good at beating up pawns. And then I linked it to a Seinfeld analogy for the rest of us ex-geners. Might remember Kramer was learning karate in one episode. And he was learning karate. He was bragging about all these karate lessons to like Jerry and the rest of them. And at the end of the episode, it was revealed that Kramer's fellow students were all like teenagers, a third of his size or half his size. So Kramer is like learning these karate lessons and beating up on people a third of his size. So you didn't even need to know karate. You just run over people because of his size differential. So I linked to the narcissist that, yeah, your game is you beat up on easy targets. You're good. And I just let that wound sink in, and I don't know what happened afterwards. But the friend or the person who's dealing with it, she said she's slowly learning tactics. So she's improving with this so-called narcissist. Look, Leslie's eating and making us jealous. How are you allowed to eat? There's like ribs. Look at that. Did she order that out? See, that's a distraction thing. So see if people can follow the thread and follow that and come back to the main thread. People usually can't. You got to be able to track multiple conversations, and you have to just filter the noise, because there's a lot of noise with word salad. It's intentional. Word salad, it is designed to confuse you. And the narcissist is just as confused as you when they're saying their word salad bullshit, because it doesn't make any sense. It's just.
Are they really confused? I always thought they like knew their stuff.
How so? What's the evidence?
My husband would use word salad and just act so confident about it, like he knew what he was talking about. Like I was the one that was not getting it, not bright enough to get it.
Yeah, that's the easy win. So it's a word salad plus the attitude, the position of one up. The position of one up feels like the voice of God. So they learn how to talk in the voice of God and the tone to present the feeling that they're an authority figure. But the actual words are word salad. Parse through the words. Does it make sense? Is that evidence that they know what they're talking about?
Okay.
So you got to sort for those two things out. One thing is they're going to talk from a mantle of expertise, because our society rewards that. If you act confident, then essentially you're conning other people. But conning other people is okay, because Bill Clinton did it, and he opened the door for all the presidents and politicians to do it. So if we con other people and you believe it and you cave to it in the moment, then that's fair game. Even though we have Google and we can check people's background, we're lazy. We don't check what people say. If they say it confidently, we'll take them at face value. Con.
I think they all lie. They pretend that they understand what's going on, but most of it is like a mishmash. You know, it's just all over the place. So something will stick somewhere. But I would talk to my narcissist and he would just talk in circles. And he picked subjects that I wasn't familiar with. So he sounded like he was an authority figure. But you're right. Once you check it, it's like everything you said was a lie. You're a liar. He lied about everything, but he liked to talk and hear himself talk. Because when he talked, he was like proving to himself that he's really smart, but he actually was a dumb fuck.
No, he's not proving to himself. He's creating the feeling. So earlier with Stacy, the narcissist has a narcissistic injury where they're embarrassed or they're humbled. And that's a bad feeling. So what they do is they get a cheap win, find somebody as an audience to talk confidently, sound like an authority figure. Then suddenly they create this feeling of, oh, I'm confident. So it's all about them creating a positive feeling to cover up their negative feeling. Just like codependents create a positive feeling to cover up their negative feeling of comforting other people and being a rescuer. That's the positive feeling. And they're triggered by anxiety. So they have silent treatment that makes them in the what if world, and their minds start spiraling. So they jump in to rescue somebody else. Same dynamic. Or similar dynamic. That's sort of this chart. Let's see. So last week we covered how chronic pain worked. And I added these labels. So you have a painful experience, and then you have a catastrophizing, which is drama. Usually that's using judgment. So you interpret this pain as bad, or somebody gave it to you, or whatever. You need a story around why you hurt, because otherwise you don't know what to do with it. Background noise. Okay. Then you create the story here, and then you create two coping strategies, typically two categories. You can fight it, so you can get an aggressive strategy where you oppose the pain and you try to find some way of hope. if I do this, if I block this, if I kill the invader, if I get away from the narcissist, I'll have hope. I'll be able to escape the pain. Or you create an avoidance strategy, which is like going, if I follow all these rules, if I learn the game better, if I catch more red flags, then I'll be able to avoid the pain next time. But both of these strategies are avoiding feeling the pain. So you never get out. You just sort of wrap the pain around a story, a coping strategy, and that freezes the pain in your body until you have another trigger that brings the flashback into your system. And then you go around this loop again with another story of hope. Let me get a better therapist who's going to give me a way out. Let me go to Deef's group, it's going to give me a way out, whatever. You have some escape strategy that'll help you avoid reliving this pain, but somehow you keep doing it. But I was such a good person, how could this happen to me? That's sort of a why loop. That's also a story here. And then that's sort of like saying the world is unfair. It's sort of stuck. You aren't really get to the freeze. You're just sort of, you're stuck here, sort of. So that's sort of a victim narrative, Jamal. Like, why me? So that's more a freeze strategy. Why me? But typically in codependent meetings, you got advice. So you get avoidance advice, or you get empty hope. Do these 3 steps and you're free. And then when you do the 3 steps, you can't go back to the person who gave you the advice because he's gone. So the codependent fixer can give you advice, and they're not responsible for you figuring out how to apply it in real time. So you take this and you take it advanced. So this is the advanced loop. So narcissists tend to do the inside loop 1, 2, 3. And then codependents do a reverse 1, 2, 3. But codependents and narcissists do both. So a narcissist does word salad because they're fishing. They want a reaction out of you. So they say stuff, they throw stuff out there to get you to react. If you react, that means you're in pain. That means they found a pain point. They hooked you. But even giving you word salad is going to hook a codependent. But any sort of emotional intensity is going to hook a pain experience. That pain experience creates an opening. So they want to fish to get an opening. When they get an opening, then they can amplify the hook with interpretation and judgment. So I threw a bait back out and I said, oh, I was a virgin until 27. He took that as a potential painful experience, and then he tried to amplify. He tried to judge and reel me in. Number 2, tried to reel me in by saying, oh, maybe, are you like an incel? He's trying to reel in the pain because I gave him something that, I gave him a bite. He thought it was a bite. He thought it was a bite. He tried to reel it in. He tried to reel it in by altering my perception, by linking my 27-year-old experience by my story, amplifying it to the incel. Then he was going to amplify it to Elliot Rodgers' incel story. So he's trying to alter my perception because I opened the door by sharing my story. So when a codependent shares story, you open the door for the narcissist to amplify your story so that next time you remember, it's even worse. Because every time you relive a memory, it gets re-remembered with the new material you put into the memory. Which is why Brian Williams remembered he went to whatever. Or Joe Biden remembered, or Clinton remembered she was in the line of fire, all this stuff. So, because they keep retelling the story. Every time they retell the story, they amplify and change it a little. So after 50 times retelling the story, the details can be highly distorted, and they genuinely think that's what happened. So when he was trying to alter my perception by planting incel and all this stuff and talking in the confident, godlike authority tone, so it sounded like he was certain, that was essentially trying to silence my read of myself. So he was trying to alter my perception, reel me in. And then the number 3 thing is to silence my truth and let his truth superimpose on me, number 3. And then that's sealing the deal, sealing the memory. And then they run away they're able to dump crap and they get an easy win. 1, 2, 3. Codependents do 1, 2, 3, 2. They typically do the 1, 2, 3 with the inner critic. So you're already doing this in your head. That's the virus of the narcissist for your narcissist parent grooming. Your inner critic looks for pain, then it looks to amplify it. Then it says, woe is me, I suck, I've always sucked, I'm never going to get any better. And then you silence your inner intuition and you just continue inner critic. So then you spend all your time trying to fight the inner critic. So codependents tend to internalize the inside loop, while narcissists tend to externalize it. So the codependent external loop is you come to these support group meetings and you look for pity stories, or you share your pity story. Life sucks, my narcissist harmed me here, blah, 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 pity story. So you unfreeze your pity story. And now there's an opening, number 1. So part 1 is you join somebody else's pity story. But you don't really join their story because you're terrible at listening. So you listen to their story and that triggers your pity story. And now you superimpose your story on top of their story because you don't give them space to tell them their story. You already jumped in and dived in because you have urgency, like Chaitin was talking about. You see something that needs fixing. You hear the pity story, instantly you go into fixing mode because you hear just the first part. You join in with your baggage and you want to go to number 2. Number 2's here. So number 2, the 2 go-tos for codependence, it's not all of it, is you give avoidance strategies. So you add anxiety to the other person by saying, you need to do this. You need to listen to Richard Grannon. You need to hoard YouTube things. You need to check out this expert. You need to go to a therapist. You need to whatever. There's an infinite amount of things you can offer people to create the illusion of control. And then number 2, or the second thing of number 2, is you can give people false hope. Like, oh, you don't suck so bad. You're okay. You just have to do this and now you're free. Or you just have to do this. There's a utopia. Just keep having faith. It's okay. You don't suck. You're not so shameful. So what if you sucked for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. I'm not judging you. No one judges you here, blah, blah, blah. The world loves you, which the world doesn't. The world doesn't give a damn about your traumas. But here, we all love you temporarily until you're annoying. So you give this false hope. So typically you give these 2, false hope or anxiety, control strategies. Do this, do that, do that. You just have to learn more and somehow you'll get less fear. And then number 3, this is the invisible part of codependence. Then you just move on to the next fix. So you abandon the person and you're essentially enabling their pain because you aren't really giving them any advice that's based on their story. It's based on your story. Because listening to people is a pain in the ass because you have to give them space and it's annoying. You got to make sense of their crap stories. No one really wants to listen to anybody. Everyone's alone. That's the rules of the real world. That's a long message, Kurt. That'll take me a while to read through. I'll try to read through in a moment. If you can simplify it. Okay, this is the promise, or this is the teaser. So you guys, or everybody wants drama now because everyone's hooked on social media and whatnot. So if you learn how to hold apathy better, and you learn how to recognize your freeze and the other person's freeze and the narcissist's freeze, and you use that, add that to your toolkit, then all the other tools that you learn from therapy and everything else works better. But if you can't hold apathy, then you don't know where you are in the battle and you will always lose. And it will just frustrate you to try whatever the hell people are telling you to do. Gray rock, boundaries, cut off, blah, blah. You're just gonna keep fucking up because you don't know where you are. You don't know position. You don't know where the bullets are coming. You're stupid. Or you're putting your head in the sand. So you're intentionally stupid. and you deserve it. But is Marima driving? Isn't that cool? Look, she's having a drive and she's joining us. So I'm like, I'm getting a partial drive with Marima, and I'm at home. Isn't that exciting? I got to share with sound. Okay. Mute myself. Okay, so this is the promise, or this is the teaser. This is why you should care. I got to sell it to you. I'm not going to try to manipulate you like a codependent. Say, you must do this. No, you don't have to do this. You can keep doing what you want. This is not magic hope. This is going to take work. But it's sort of like this.
He is the one.
He is the one. He sees through the matrix. That's the key. That's the secret. Meeting over. No anger? Come on, some reaction. A lot of the gaslighting is all a lie. That is true. Tony mentioning that it's nonsense or whatever, that's true. But if you can't see through it in the midst of it, that truth is totally worthless to you. If you're seeing through it after the fact, 5 hours after the argument with a narcissist, it's also totally worthless to you. If you see through it then when you're going to therapy, whatever, if you can't see through it in the midst of the bullet coming at you, then all those truths are totally worthless. You aren't seeing through the matrix. You have to see the bullets freeze, stop, not react. Stay in your freeze and see that the bullets aren't real. You have to slow things down, which is hard for urgency addicts. Because your childhood programming is saying, oh, injury, uncertainty, blame, I'm hooked, I must urgently do stuff. This bullet is coming at me and I'm gonna die. $2:20. Okay, we're good on time since we're not getting reactions. It's harder to read you when I don't have reactions. So part of the key is this arrow. So here are the 4 windows of interactions. You have stuff that's known by you and known by others. That's the open area. Monita's here. She missed all of the nice videos. Welcome, Monita. Maybe things will get interesting now. It's been pretty boring. Maybe people have too many drugs. I don't know. So there's 4 areas, 4 windows. So you got known by yourself and known by others. That's open territory. That's the public. There's your blind spot, which is stuff that you don't know about yourself that other people know. So the narcissist can play in your blind spot. And if you go to too many codependent and therapy groups, they're going to reinforce your blind spots. Typically, if you get a good group, maybe it'll help share your blind spot, because it's ideal to have less blind spots that other people can see, because then you know. So you can expand this. It's reasonable to ask for feedback and solicit feedback. So your blind spots are smaller. This gets smaller. You want to go here. So you got to find friends and community that will be honest to you, and you got to be able to tolerate that honesty. But instead, codependents typically hang out here. You're oversharers. So this disclosure thing of stuff that you know that other people don't know. A narcissist or a narcissist wants this area, the hidden area. They want to go here. And then codependents want to overshare or seem to overshare. I don't know why they overshare. Maybe we should relabel this Oversharers Anonymous. And they like over apologizing for some reason. So you disclose too much. Disclosure is your right to not disclose. So you got to reverse this arrow and limit your disclosure, because there's no reason to disclose to your enemy. And the narcissist wants to actively get you to disclose. That's essentially what happened last Saturday. He was trying to specifically find my vulnerabilities or anybody else's vulnerability. That's where he was targeting his laser sight. Tell me your vulnerability. He opened up with his false vulnerability, going, oh, I'm a retard, I'm vulnerable, I don't know. So he gave a false disclosure to invite real disclosure from me and other people. So this arrow needs to be limited. These two arrows are okay, but stop disclosing so much, because codependents disclose too much. And we have the Miranda warning, which is all about this. And it's not, Miranda's running only for evidence. It's not your right. But when you're giving evidence, you have the right to not give evidence against yourself without a lawyer or with a lawyer. You're allowed to have a lawyer tell you that you don't have to incriminate yourself legally. The police can still get evidence outside of your testimony, but you're allowed to not tell on yourself. So in the legal world, you don't have to tell on yourself. And you, if the narcissist, you don't have to tell on yourself. But that might be hard because codependents love oversharing for some reason. I haven't figured that out. I think it's a repetition compulsion where you want to have a fight. You want to have a fight over again with your narcissist who's a fill-in for some parent figure. And you want to somehow win. I'm not sure why. I'll have to figure that out. Future meeting, why codependents overshare. Or maybe someone will have an answer today. So you have the right to remain silent, and then anything you say will be used by the narcissist against you and be distorted right in the midst of it. So it's better to shut the fuck up or say as little as possible, because why are you sharing with a narcissist your pain? We already know they have no empathy. They have no conscience. They have no capacity to listen to you. So why are you trying to get them to listen to you? It makes no sense.
Hey, Dee.
Yeah.
I know I overshare, and I agree with you. I should shut the fuck up. But I overshare, I think, trying to explain things, thinking that if I explain it, then there would be understanding.
Ugh. Trying to explain things.
You know, thinking that we have, well, I don't anymore. Thinking that you have an open communication where if I express this concern, then you will understand where it's coming from.
Well, then that's a negotiation issue, right? Mm. So if you want them to understand it, and then if they understand it, then their behavior is going to change or going to improve, right? They'll listen to you better.
Yeah, I know that's not true, but I think that's why I share.
So, you share it because you want to be heard, but on the goal is to get some cooperation or better behavior.
Yeah.
To get a need met. So that's a negotiation issue, but you haven't pitched your argument. You haven't presented your argument in a way with leverage to raise the odds of you getting your need met. It's sort of an empathetic plea of like going, if I do something nice for you, then, and I'm hurt or whatever, then you should automatically reciprocate. That's sort of the unconscious negotiation.
Yeah.
But narcissists don't follow that pattern, do they?
Oh yeah, I know. I
Okay.
learned the hard way.
You're negotiating with your values and you don't understand their values. So there's two different value systems going on. That's why it's not falling. I think.
Do they really have values?
Yes. They're terrified of being embarrassed.
Ah,
They're terrified of getting narcissistic injury. Oh, now we got some interesting stuff on here. Let's see. Codependence, overshare, lack validation, lacking confidence, blah, blah, blah. That's an over explanation of oversharing. I don't even understand what that says. Okay, let's read Jamal's thing. Oversharing is common trauma response. We keep thinking that if we keep talking, we'll be understood, accepted, and loved. I have an answer for both of these. What do you think my answer is going to be? This is from listening to Richard Grannon a couple of days ago. And he's making a pretty reasonable argument that trauma isn't just from the wounding from childhood. That's what psychology thinks. From a philosophical level, trauma is because you try to share your stories by oversharing. And the world doesn't give a fuck. Your friends don't care. Your therapist doesn't. No one cares about your trauma story. That's why you're oversharing. How's that fall?
harsh.
But does that match reality? Does that match your experience? Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it a compulsion to continue to try and use the wrong tool to fix the situation? Like we just keep doing the same thing even though we get feedback that tells us we're wrong, but we have a compulsion to just continue to do that same thing over and over and over and over.
Oh, you have a compulsion to make sense of your trauma, but the world doesn't care. The world's enablers, not just the enablers in your childhood. The whole world is trying to keep up our society, our house of mirrors. You're not allowed to have trauma. Or the world doesn't care you have trauma. You got to figure it out on your own. That's essentially what the world is responding. But you have a need. That's why you're oversharing. So it's not a bad need, but the world doesn't care. That's the harsh reality of the world. You got to make sense of your trauma. Therapists are going to say you got to relive your childhood and reparent yourself and brainwash yourself with hand mnemonics 10 times a day and fight your superego. They give you this long, complicated, whatever the fuck they're teaching you, because it's all about fixing your wound. No, you just have to make sense of your wound. You just have to feel your pain, get reborn into an adult self, and you're done with that fucking trauma. You just grow out of it. But it's hard to grow out of it, and you could use some guidance. So that's sort of my angle here, to show you the map and then help you grow out of it. Embrace the suck. See, so my summary is better than Chaitin's long word salad of whatever it was. Do you want me to read Chaitin's stuff? Maybe codependence overshare because back in our childhood, we lack mirroring validation that leads us to feel that others understand us, get us, value us. Lacking that confidence, we feel compelled to overshare. It's over-explaining, anticipating that the other person won't get us, ? Wasn't that a bit word salady? That's not judging. I like Chaitin. Chaitin's a good, but I gotta use what material I'm getting from you. So it's good-heartedness.
Steve, in summary, you're saying shut the fuck up and grow the fuck up.
Yes, that could be a nice summary. See, that's nice and concise, not word salad.
I think that's studying your epitaph, right?
Not real juicy.
We want juicy, simple stuff because in psychotherapy, we learn all this jargon, these long words and these complicated things. And we're spending all our mental energy to keep up with all these terms like neuroplasticity, window of tolerance. That's not even the extreme ones, but that's just some Daniel Siegel stuff. So every psychological model has its own jargon that you have to learn. And narcissist jargon is like, gray rock, hoovering, fragile narcissist. What's some of the complicated narcissistic jargon we throw out here? So then we get lost trying to understand all the jargon, and then who the fuck cares about your jargon? It's not a language class. This is about living. Don't you want to live? Don't you want to get out of your crappy story?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going into a rant. Let's go forward a little. 2:30. Okay, we can now cover some, see how this falls maybe. So here's two models. It's not perfect. The right is sort of my model, which I don't do linearly. But I drew this out, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago or something. You can review this on your own, but there's cold strategies, which is the freeze tactics, which I'm trying to teach today. And then there's hot strategy, which is sort of agree and amplify strategies. And this is being like Jesus, because Jesus or God said something like, was it Jesus or God? Someone correct me, like, be you hot or be you cold. But if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out. That's in the Bible, right? Something like that. Don't be lukewarm. So either be cold, get good at freezing, cold, and get good at hot. Stop hanging out in lukewarm bullshit. But I've taught hot strategies, and codependents don't believe it and they're not good at it. So freeze strategies, I think that's something that's missing. Learning how to freeze. Learning how to cold. Learning how to use cold and slow and silence and quiet. And then we'll use Chris Voss's model of negotiation to give you more practical steps instead of my confusing model, or I don't know. But when you're freezing, you become invisible to your enemy, to your predator. If you have no reaction, they don't know how to pull your strings. If you don't want them to hear your story and be empathetic to you, then you also don't have to pull their strings. What you need to pull their strings is figure out their needs, figure out their leverage. You need leverage. You got to find their pain points. So to find their pain points, you got to do Chris Voss level stuff. So you got to listen better. And this is probably impossible. So this is the big crux of codependence and narcissists and normal people. So all of America sucks at listening. So at best, they might listen to level 2. So typically people listen to respond. So you listen to somebody and you want to find a flaw, or you find something you want to agree. If something you agree, then you just let it in. If there's something you don't like for whatever reason, you instantly try to hone in and say, what's the flaw? How can I create an ad hominem attack and just rip apart the other person's words so I don't have to consider it because I'm lazy or whatever, because it makes me feel bad to hear what they're saying. So let me look for a flaw so then I can now get ready to respond. How can I respond in a way to rebut the other person's argument? To take it apart so I don't have to feel bad anymore. But if all you do with your listening there at level 2 is you have no idea what the internal logic of the other person's argument is, level 3, you don't understand their emotional issues that's driving their argument. So you don't know the underlying needs, level 4. And level 5, you don't know their internal map. You don't know the rules that they set for themselves that they follow. Everyone has some worldview in their head that they restrict themselves with because it makes their world orderly, because the world's fucking confusing and chaotic. So you have to simplify the world with a worldview. So the narcissists have a worldview. So if you listen to the level of 5 and you understand their worldview, you know what they're willing to do, how far they'll go, and where they won't go. And when you know that, now you can start framing your argument within their worldview and pulling their strings based on their emotional needs. And then your negotiations improve. How's that fall? So we got everyone drugged out. So how do you get better at listening? First, you have to learn how to mirror using Chris Voss tactics. This is from Chris Voss's masterclass, but it's kind of quick. So we're gonna give you a taste of his masterclass, but we're gonna add more body to it. So this is like level 2 or level 3 of his masterclass.
Mirroring, the hostage negotiator's mirroring. It's just a simple repetition of 1 to 3 words, 1 to 3-ish words. Typically, it's the last 1 to 3 words of what somebody said. But when you get good at mirroring, you could pick 1 to 3 words from anywhere in the conversation. The other person feels listened to. It tends to connect their thoughts in their head. Part of the message it sends to the other person is, I heard every word you said, word for word, and I'm proving it because I just repeated it back to you, but it's not enough. I still don't get it. And when people go on with a further explanation, they're going to add more words. They're going to change their terms. One of the...
That's it. So mirroring, the way he teaches at a simple level, is you reflect back 3 words or a 1 to 5 word summary of what the other person's saying. And if you're a beginner, you can just repeat the last 3 words or 3 words of the last sentence they say and just keep them talking. But you have to add silence also. So it's not just mirroring. 3 words makes you invisible, and then amplify with silence, which is hard, might be hard for codependents, because you link silence with danger.
So the recipe for mirroring, first of all, is just, the last 1 to 3 words of what someone just said. But then the critical issue afterwards is to shut up, effective pause or dynamic silence. A lot of people have trouble going silent because a lot of people signal anger with silence. So they're afraid that their silence will be misinterpreted as anger. But it's critical to display that you're interested, that you go silent, especially after a mirror, especially after the use of a great skill. You want to go silent afterwards. Let the other person think. Let your skill sink into their head. Let it have its intended effect. And go silent, which also lets the person know that you really want to hear, and you're going to shut up until they do.
So mirroring at a practical effect is when you mirror, you help the other person link their words together. And if
I'm
the
having a hard
narcissist,
time following that.
Hmm?
I'm having a hard time following that.
the mirroring or the silence part?
The combination of the two. Could you use an example for that?
Example for what?
Can you give us an example of what mirroring and then silence would look like?
What mirroring and silence looks like?
Hmm. Yeah.
Am I giving an example?
No, I need an example.
She needs an example. Does anyone else see an example?
You just did it.
See? That's how invisible it is. You can do it and say it and you still can't see it. The silence is invisible, and we'll give more examples about that because that's,
Okay.
it's pacing. So silence isn't just silence. So silence is shutting the fuck up, but it's learning how to pace and work with people with that. But let's do mirroring first, and I'll try to embody the silence later. Because silence is trickier, especially with codependents who are afraid of silent treatment. So there's a lot of judgment with silence. But silence is magic. And it's not just silence. You have to learn how to consciously use silence and gaps and pauses to guide attention and emphasize stuff. There's a link for the slides. I think Marimo was asking. Someone was asking or not. So, but mirroring, the 3 words, what that does is it keeps the other person talking, but it also helps them link their thoughts. So if the narcissist is giving word salad, you can say they're doing it to confuse you, but also you can make an argument they're saying word salad because they don't know what the fuck they're saying. They're confused. Because if they were less confused, they would be talking less word salad-y. So if you mirror, you stay in mirroring and keep them talking, you help them link their thoughts. So at least then they can make sense of what the fuck they're saying. In addition to you have more time to make sense of what the fuck they're saying. Because narcissists are stupid. They're retards. The narcissist on Saturday said he was 25% retard. And I agreed. And later on, I said, yeah, you're probably 50% retard. That's hot strategy. But he started it. I didn't have to blame him. He opened the door. I'm using his words and throwing it back at him. That's better than using my words and trying to get him to accept it. So mirroring is a way to position yourself out of danger because all you're doing is let them talk using their words and helping them connect their thoughts. That allows you more time to listen, to get more of their needs, more of their worldview, more of their position so that you can target them. If you can target them, your anxiety goes down. So listening helps your anxiety go down. You think listening is like caving because you're not being listened to, but it helps your anxiety go down because you know you're feeling out the danger of your opponent. If you put your head in the sand, you don't know the danger of your opponent. So your anxiety is just temporarily relieved until they stab you in the back because your head's in the sand because you're being stupid by checking out. And then they just sidle up to you and then stab you. That's what I would do. But I'm sadist and Machiavellian. So the test says.
Is that like, if you're saying like, mirroring them, like mine, all he talked about was his early childhood or his recent. He missed a whole 20 or 30 year period of his life. So he'd go back to his childhood and talk about how he thought he was the product of incest his whole life and everybody was an alcoholic. And then I'd mirror him back and talk about that just to try to gain more insight into what the hell he's saying, you know.
Mirroring's a start, but then you add silence to let it sink in, and then slowly you start guiding their attention. So it's not just mirroring. Mirroring is this sort of the foundation. because it's not just freeze. Once you get freeze and you get invisible, now you can start turning their head. So first you want to stop going face to face. You want to get to the person's side. Then you want to get behind them. And then you want to start turning their head, figuratively, metaphorically. But in order to get through their defenses, you have to start mirroring. So now you're on the side of them. Then you position once toward their worldview, and then now you can start turning their head. And now you're pulling their strings.
By listening.
By listening better, yeah. By learning your environment, learning your opponent, by shutting the fuck up and growing up.
It's like
requirements
it's almost,
before mirroring. Yeah, that's a good question. Leslie.
It's almost like it's so hard to be in a relationship with a narcissist. Why even bother? I mean, think about all the shit we go through
Because
just
they're
to have somebody
entertaining. Because they're willing to spar with you. Because they act like they care where the rest of the world doesn't give a damn about your trauma. At least they'll act like they care about your trauma.
I don't even think mine did.
It doesn't, they don't, but they act like it. For a moment, during the hoovering stage, they'll act like they care about your trauma. The rest of the world doesn't care.
Right.
Requirements before mirroring. You got to know your hooks. You got to unhook your hooks.
That was such a big thing you just said. I think that's a big deal. I think that's why we fall for it. Because they pretend like they care when we realize nobody else does.
Yeah, the world doesn't care.
So that's a hook.
Yes, that's a huge hook.
That's a huge hook.
But you're allowed to care about your trauma.
Right.
And I care about your trauma if it's a good story.
Only if it's entertaining.
It has to reach levels of bleeding testicles.
That was a good one.
Yeah, see? Then I'll care about your trauma. So you can come to me with your trauma stories, but it has to have like some good trauma or pain.
Or blood.
Yeah, blood is good.
What's wrong with you?
But if you have your shield up, so you have to go into the engagement neutral. Because if you have your shield up, your energy is wasted. You can't move. You're less mobile because you're defended. So if you have shields up or defenses, that's because you have hooks in your system, weaknesses that need to be addressed. That was sort of the last 3 vulnerability meetings, trying to explore what are your wounds. Because if you're going to the battle and you have like 3 arrows in your back already, you should go to the hospital and tend to your arrow wounds first before you go into a new engagement. But if you're already sort of arrowed out, at least tend to your wounds first and not expect the narcissist to be the doctor. So it's like you're going into a fight and the narcissist stabs you a bunch of times. And then you somehow want the narcissist to heal your wounds because he gave them to you. You can go to a hospital or you can address your wound. Why would you want your enemy to heal your wounds when all they know how to do is to cut you?
Right. They will never heal us. They will never help us. They're not there
they're
for
helping
us.
you. They're entertaining you. They're giving you the illusion of caring about your fucked up trauma oversharing story because no one else wants to listen to that story. It's lonely to hold that oversharing story and have no one listen to it. That must be horrible to have it looping your head every night and all the time. I feel pity for codependents who have this like flashbacks every day, 10 times a day. It sounds really nasty. I can see why you might want to kill yourself. See, then you get to laughing. That's what you got to do. Stop staying in your fucking sob story. Laugh about your sob story. Because no one cares about your sob story. You're just throwing a tantrum as an adult, trying to get someone to care, trying to relive the story over. Just learn to laugh about it. You survived, which means you're a survivor. You're not dead, which means your trauma story wasn't lethal. it felt like you died, but by evidence, by being here, you're not dead, unless you're a walk-in disembodied soul or something. But that's a different topic. Fascinating is an ex tried to make me responsible for healing them for every time they said I hurt them. Yeah. That's borderline or narcissist, dump responsibility on somebody else. So they want you to do their emotional work. And somehow codependents like that importance. That's another thing codependents like. You want a wounded person that's impossible to heal. To heal. You want to heal somebody that's impossible to heal. That seems like a common codependent desire. I'm not sure why, but does anyone identify with that?
I don't think we go into it thinking, I'm going to heal this guy and then I'll feel better about myself. I think once you become in a relationship with them, you see how fucked up they are. And then you're like, well, I'm gifted in healing because I'm empathic. So I'll heal this person. But you hit a dead end because you can't heal them because they're so fucked up, they'll never be healed. I think it's,
Yes, but narcissists open their wounds or they share their wounds. They're more vulnerable than codependents.
Right.
Last Saturday, the narcissist shared his retardedness openly.
Right.
He shared his covetedness openly. He shared his childhood wound openly, that he didn't have Transformers growing up, and that was some childhood wound, which I was laughing at, but other people wanted to argue the facts of that, where I was just enjoying how pitiful he was. But he was open, he was sharing his wounds openly. I didn't have to dig it out. So, narcissists share their wounds openly.
Right.
Do you think part of when we try to help them, it comes back to bite us? Well,
it comes back because you're negotiating that if you help them, they'll care about you more, but they're not accepting that negotiation. You don't have a written contract saying, I helped try to heal you. I crossed your boundaries by preemptively rescuing you and doing all your work. Therefore, you must listen to my oversharing and act more empathetic and hoover me 24/7. You don't have that written down, do you?
No, I wouldn't want it.
Okay, you want hoovering every, let's say once a week, and no surprise silent treatment, no surprise anger rages.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want. So you're giving in good faith that you're going to get some sort of more hoovering and less rages, but it's not written down. They haven't agreed to that contract.
No.
And you have no leverage to say, you have no punishment to give them when they don't fulfill the deal of the contract they didn't sign.
Well, I filed for divorce, but then
he's playing the court game.
Yeah. Do you think one of the things the therapist said is he felt like my husband was using that year of therapy to learn how to manipulate more?
Sure. That's what I do.
Learned that.
That's what they do. That's very common.
Okay.
Welcome, Steph, our millennial.
Hey.
We already covered everything. There's nothing else to cover. You missed it all.
It figures.
Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to be avoiding them like the plague. Why are we trying to deal with them?
Because they're everywhere. They're on the TV screen every day with Trump and his coronavirus updates. You can't avoid them, can you?
You just don't have to fall in love with them. That's what you shouldn't do.
You can't help but fall in love with them. They're the only people that's going to hoover you.
Right, with the charisma.
Yeah.
So
the rest of the people are boring. They don't have charisma. They're not going to chase after you and throw all the attention and love bomb you. Isn't love bombing nice? Wasn't that?
No.
No? You don't like love bombing? You don't like feeling important? You don't like feeling like the center of the universe?
It scares me now.
Being the center of the universe?
Yeah, now that I understand what happened.
Isn't that sad? You can't enjoy love bombing now?
Yeah, you can't.
It's just love bombing. You deserve to be loved. You're the center of the universe. Look at how you're beaming. You deserve to be worshipped.
No, scares me off completely. I will literally stop communicating.
Yes. So you have well-meaning people that might just be admiring you and you're going to cut them off. That's the price.
Are we destined to end up with a narcissist?
If you don't grow up, yeah.
Right.
See, Jamal's honest. First time it happened, the most validating thing he ever experienced. Yes, love bombing is intoxicating. Because the world doesn't give a fuck about you. So the narcissists or borderline or whatever, they'll create the illusion that they give a fuck about you for, a couple weeks, couple months. I don't know how long does love bombing last?
Not long.
No.
Not long enough for the price you pay.
Because then the next 2/3 are devalue and demotion,
So this is another angle of mirroring, which is a different framing. Maybe this will change the energy because now we're in this opposition, antipathy position where we're supposed to be apathetic.
Gillian, let's say, is annoyed about some, I don't know, purchase or some issue she's had. Maybe travel insurance again, whatever you like.
No, travel.
Travel.
Bus stop my hand out, bus went right past.
Just like that?
Loads of us standing there waiting, tons of us, and we were all, what they got, and then I eventually got on a bus, late, naturally, and there was a lorry that stuck, and it was too big to stand in the corner, and there was somebody parked there, and everything in the world was just going wrong today.
Whoa.
And I was trying to get here in time.
Wow.
And it meant I was,
Yeah.
and I felt I was really letting Janet down.
Oh.
You know how
Yeah, you do, don't you?
But in the end, it was okay.
Yeah.
I panicked for nothing.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
Good.
I'm present.
Thanks.
So this is the example of pacing and leading using NLP terms. Then he's going to give examples of bad pacing and leading. And it's got British terminologies, so you have to adapt.
So in this particular case, Gillian had high energy. I met her with high energy, but more physically, not much talking. Did I talk much? Was I trying to dazzle her with my linguistic skills? No. Energy, I was sort of matching her. High energy, looking, Addison, but not higher, just slightly below. Once there was a sense of connection again, I lowered my breathing, slowed my breathing down a bit, and there was a sense that you naturally came down. Yeah. So it does work. It's the police learn this, by the way, if you're interested.
So the room was getting higher energy, and there was a bit arguing and opposition. But it was the 2 or 3 people, so I couldn't slow it back down. So I diverted to the video.
Here's how not to do it again. Would you like to know how not to do it? Someone's angry.
Okay, the bus.
The bus? The bus?
I knew it was going to be late.
Well, come on. Are you going to put up with this?
No, I'm not.
No. Let's go and find the bloody bus driver. Let's go and find him and kill him.
That's a hot strategy. That's not bad, because you're going with them.
Okay. So in this particular case, I met Gillian with even, and then, you've probably seen the film Gladiator. Might be quite useful if you want to sort of, kind of launch an attack. But otherwise, possibly not the best way to calm people, especially if you're working in customer service. All right, shall I show you the other way of how not to do this? Gillian is angry.
I'm angry again, and I'm still angry because of this damn bus.
I think this is maybe codependent way. Let's see how the rapport is.
The memory stayed with me all day. It's ruined my day because I can't even
Just
relate
breathe,
to anybody.
Gillian. Breathe. Just relax.
Relax. I'm going to kill
breathe.
him.
No. Say
Down the number.
Say
Are you going to carry on with that stupid? That's not help to me
No,
whatsoever.
of course it is. You just need to
I thought you'd
relax,
be on my
Gillian.
side. How can you do
Gillian,
that?
I'm trying to help. Just say relax. It's all good. So in this particular case, Gillian had high energy. I met her with low energy, and it wasn't terribly successful. So there we are, simple as that. You can do this in a couple of minutes each. Grab someone, have a
is that wind noise? Okay. So mirroring is also matching energy and pacing and leading. So first you have to pace and match the person's energy, then you can lead them to where you want to go. But if you just oppose their pace, oppose their energy, then that's naturally gonna create more dissonance. And then that creates more drama, which is very exciting for codependents apparently, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Because the narcissist is also pacing and leading, and they'll oppose you, or they're also good at opposing, and they're faster at opposing. So having a dominance battle usually doesn't work very good. So back to Chris Voss. So echo. With mirroring, another step is to label. And labeling is neutralizing the other person's emotions and needs. It's also fishing. So when you get the other person's emotions and needs and label it out, you sort of you're getting close to their hooks. You get close to their weak points, you're neutralizing and you're creating some trust. And you're helping them think. Process their thoughts.
All right, the steps to labeling. The first step is you simply being aware of the emotion or the dynamic in the other.
Hey, stop interrupting the group.
All right, the steps to labeling. The first step is you simply being aware of the emotion or the dynamic from the other side. Now, this is a lot easier than it sounds because you've got a great gut instinct. Becoming aware of what your gut instinct is picking up is the first step. Then the second step after that is to simply label it. That starts out with, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, it feels like. Those are the first few words of a label. And then just fill in the blank. If your gut instinct is to say, look, I don't want you to be upset about this, your gut instinct is picking up that they are upset or they will be upset. So and take it and make it a label. Seems like you're upset about this. What happens in your brain is you say to yourself, am I upset? It triggers that contemplation. And the mere act of triggering that contemplation deactivates the negative. So my labels are going to do several things simultaneously. They're going to build the relationship, and they're going to help me gather information. And since both of those things are happening, then my influence with you is going to increase. And the great thing about this type of influence, this approach to influence, this is what I call trust-based influence. It's the lowest maintenance, most durable type of influence there is.
So this part I thought was key. Let's see.
What happens in your brain is you say to yourself, am I upset? It triggers that contemplation.
So when you label, you're triggering contemplation in the other person's head. Welcome, Aster. You've also missed all the good stuff. But welcome from California with the good weather. The East Coast is starting
in a quarter mile, swipe left onto US.
Oh, and you're driving too. Everyone's having exciting driving.
I'm just gonna mute it because it's too loud. I'm running errands, but I do want to stay present with everyone.
Yes, join in. So we covered mirroring. Mirroring is helping the other person connect their thoughts. Especially if they're saying word salad. You can't make sense of the word salad. So it's likely they can't make sense of their word salad. They're just making shit up. So if you mirror, then they can make shit up more. And if there's some consistency between the story they've told 3 times when you're mirroring them. That consistency might be something that's more substantive, less noisy. Then when you label, sounds like this, feels like that, you're getting them to contemplate in their head, to go into their emotions and their needs. Because you're sort of asking a question, you're guiding their attention like this. Sounds like that's upsetting to you. Sounds like that's important. Sounds like blah, blah, blah. And they have to, it's hard not to think about that question. So right now I'm here and then we have less video. So Tony's checked out, Leslie's gone. Carlos is driving. So it sounds like I don't know what's happening out there because I don't have the feedback. So it sounds like to me that people might not be following. Now, when I say it sounds like you're not following, is there any internal mechanism that wants to respond? Or at least think about responding or something.
It just makes me want to turn my video on, like, oh no.
Like I just did.
So I didn't ask you to turn on the video. All I said was it sounds like other people are this, but I'm actually showing my feelings and I'm just directing it outward. And your behavior changed because it planted contemplation in your head. It wasn't a direct request. It's just going, sounds like I don't know what's happening about here. And that's indirectly asking for your engagement, but it's, I didn't explicitly ask you for more engagement, did I?
I was tempted to respond and then I realized I'm driving and that's priority. So I'm still going to stay present and listen in, but I had to reorient myself and be like, okay, what's priority right now?
Focus on your driving.
To be listened to. And you know, I'm getting really good at that MVP stuff right now. So yeah, basically I had to redirect my attention to stay focused on my driving, but I'm listening.
So mirroring, we think we're just listening and we're like caving. But it's really because it's work. Mirroring is work, but it's not that much work. You don't have to even listen to the other person. All you have to do is just summarize some crap and people just keep talking. Because when they're talking, they're thinking out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So you're helping the person think out loud by just, you don't even need to mirror. You can just say, yeah, uh-huh. Oh, really? You don't even need to mirror the 3 words. You just half-assedly act like you're listening. And you could be going through your shopping list, whatever the hell you want. They don't know. So as long as you just act like you're listening and mirroring, it has similar effect. It's better if you do it more consciously, yes, but it's a muscle. So you mirror to help the other person get their thoughts together. It also gives you more time to figure out what the substance of their communication is. And then you label emotions. Sounds like this, sound like that, sounds like that. It gets them to contemplate in their head. It also neutralizes their negative emotions. So like Stacy's example of the ex. So the ex is having a fight after the homework. So he says, oh, sounds like you need something to fight against. Or sounds like you're upset. Sounds like that homework didn't go very well. Or sounds like you're upset over the teacher. You're upset over the system. You're upset that the teacher should be better. Is that right? Does it sound like that? Sounds like you're frustrated. There's an infinite amount of things you could say sounds like. You're just fishing. You're fishing for a reaction, just like narcissists fish for reaction. Or it feels like this is an argument we've had 50 times before. And you label it and you just throw it out there.
But what good's going to come from that? I better just.
It's
I'm
neutralizing.
Just to disengage.
You disengage and you're still, that energy is still going. So the odds of that fight happening 50 more times is still likely. But if you label it and you disarm the energy, then he's going to have to come up with another way to get under your skin. And narcissists suck at being creative. So then they run out of tools and they find someone else to mess with.
Oh, I like that.
But all you're doing, you label, you just neutralize. Oh, sounds like you're looking for a fight. Sounds like you're upset. Sounds like you tried real hard. So you can make the sounds like really grandiose. Sounds like you put your whole heart into this and you're really frustrated with the teachers and that.
But
and
can
the
I do
school
it with a
system.
condescending tone?
Neutral is better, but you can lace it with condescending. You can see what you get away with it. If you can get
Sounds
away
like
with
you
it,
worked
get away with it.
really hard at this.
What's really hard?
No, I'm saying it sounds like you worked really hard trying to figure this homework assignment out.
Yeah, you could say it that way, and he's just gonna hear what he wants to hear, usually. If you want to be condescending, you have to really amplify. I tried to amplify with the guy last Saturday, and it still didn't. I had to really try to get the knife in to amplify. But a narcissist wants to hear what they want to hear. So your tone doesn't really matter that much.
Okay.
So you can get away with condescension, make it fun. Yeah, try to throw in condescension on the surface, act like you're caring, or act like it's innocent. Have some fun with it. Go for it. I don't care. It'll probably work. So we've covered mirroring and labeling. Is that correct? So you want to listen deeper, and you listen deeper. These are two tactics. Be a mirror. Be a mirror is last three words or summarizing. That gets them going, and it helps them link their thoughts together, and it helps you sort through the noise. The more they're talking, the better off you are. Even though your oversharing your need to overshare isn't being met. So go to a 12-step meeting and just dump your story. And if that's not enough, there's in the rooms that has like 10, 12-step meetings a day, and you can just share on every single meeting and get your oversharing needs filled by other resources. The narcissist doesn't care, and they're gonna listen to your shares to get leverage on you. So shut the fuck up around your narcissist. Easy. So be a mirror. And then labeling the pain. So labeling the pain has the pause. That's the silent aspect. So that's the shut the fuck up. Then when you label the other person's feelings or try to fish it out, that disarms the energy. So if your ex wants a fight and you say, oh, sounds like you want to fight, or you want to beat up the school system, or you're really frustrated, that weakens the charge of the emotion if he agrees. It takes the energy out of the fight. It disarms the gasoline. There isn't, because it's an inner contemplation. Now instead of acting out their emotion, they're forced to contemplate inside. Is that right or wrong? And if it's right, then they know the feeling is in them.
But I feel like by just doing that, it's like making it okay.
Which is okay? Which part? Give me somebody.
By me saying, sounds like you tried really hard or you worked really hard at this. To me, that's just validating it. And then it's like I lose again.
No, the lose again is later. What do you want? What's the goal?
I don't know.
Well, if you want to win, you got to have a goal.
I just want him to be an active father.
Well, you got to help him think. That's what this is. You're helping him think. Narcissists are stupid. They're retarded. They don't know how to think. They don't know how to behave. So you have to help the narcissist make sense of the world, because they're idiots. That's what all of Trump's cabinet is trying to do, except he keeps firing the ones that actually help him think. So if you want to be a better father and he doesn't know how to think, he's an immature 10-year-old inside.
Yeah.
Then doing this helps him think. So then the behavior will improve. If you punish him, all he wants to do is avoid the punishment. He doesn't know how to change the behavior. That's what you've been trying to do.
Okay.
See, now this wasn't, I could have drug it out more with more mirroring, but due to time, I want to cover some other stuff. So.
Okay.
But by feeling their pain and labeling it, we think we're validating them, but we're neutralizing we're taking their bullets away. Don't you want to take their bullets away? Remember Neo? The bullets stopped and they fell. Don't you want less bullets coming at you? Isn't that worth it? So when you get good at mirroring and labeling, then you're summarizing. So the way to see if you're summarizing properly is the other person says, that's right. So you mirror and then you label, and then you can sort of summarize their whole argument or their position. They say that's right. Now you're getting good at active listening. So you paraphrase their statement. Paraphrase, you label their emotions right here. Paraphrase and label, you get summary. You get the summary, they say that's right. Now you're speaking the same language. Now you're in. Now you're sort of able to guide their head. Now you can start pulling their strings. Now you can start guiding their behavior. The master no. Okay, so one more tactic. Let's see. He calls it assault something. So neutralizing negatives. So I do this and it's sort of agree and amplify. Because when you make an argument, you state a position, the other person is going to counter it. They're going to give a negative. They're going to oppose you. But if you address those oppositions first, you disarm the bullets from the other person. And also sometimes you can pull out sympathy and empathy from the other person by playing, amplifying pity. So that's going hot and I suck. In my map, he doesn't list it this way. So he says, get ahead of the negative. And that's sort of like listing all the potential objections. I think that's another way of framing it.
So is this tactic applicable to everyday negotiations? Well, it's only applicable when humans are involved. One of my favorite interactions to get a late checkout and the use of the accusations order. And I understand, I like to be...
So he calls it accusations audit. So trying to see all the negatives or the counters of the other person and just throw it out there beforehand. So then it disarms the other person's bullets.
Concise. I like to go after that. I like to deactivate it as much as possible along the way. And I have literally done this when I've called them from my room and asked for a late checkout. And just, you know, I'm just honest. I need a late checkout. And they go, no, we can't give it to you. You got to check out at 11 or whatever it is. So I'll get up out of my room and I'll walk down to the front desk and I make it the same person that I had on the phone. Enough time has transpired from when I left my room to get down to the front desk. And I'll walk up to the hotel clerk and I'll say, I'm getting ready to make your day ridiculously difficult. And you can just watch stuff go through their brains. Now, a front desk hotel clerk, God knows what they face from, you know, somebody comes out of a room, I'm getting ready to make your day ridiculously difficult. The stuff they've seen up to that point in time, what's going through their mind is, you know, did you have diarrhea all over the room? Were you part of a satanic cult and you just sacrificed one of our laundry people in your room and are there pentagrams all over the wall? You know, they've probably seen it all. And they're going to think horrible thoughts for just a moment, just the dynamic silence of a pause.
That's why you want to be silent. You amplify the other person's imagination. You let things sink in.
And then you shut up until they look at you and give you permission to go on. And they give you permission to go on by saying, what is it? And you say, I need a late checkout. And they go, oh my God, okay. Sure, what do you need? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? What do you need? And they give it to you. Now, this works, I'd like to say every time. There may have been a time when this didn't work, but it works 999 times out of 1,000. It works enough that I go down and I use it and I get late checkouts all the time.
Unmute. So if you amplify the negative and you put it on your spotlight and you use silence, you can use the other person's imagination, anxiety, discomfort with the unknown. To let their inner critic or their own whatever noise do the work for you. Though you have to sort of guide a little. That's all. What else can we do? Oh, this thing's forced empathy. I forgot this. Oh, calibrated question. Recordings are message me afterwards. And we'll have it after the editing. Okay, now, narcissists' lack of empathy is a common complaint, right? How do I get the narcissist to listen to me or care or blah, 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 blah. You can use calibrated question to force the narcissist to care. This is your answer. Okay? And then the slides have a breakdown of different calibrated questions. Takes a little practice, but it works magic.
The question, how am I supposed to do that, is designed to shape the other side's thinking. Shape it around empathy. Shape it around thinking about us. Trigger slow, in-depth thinking. And in many cases, you probably want to combine your how and what questions to basically ask up to 3 questions. They're just worded differently. And it might be, how am I supposed to do that?
So one of them, how am I supposed to do that? Let me write that down. But the questions are essentially the same, but worded differently, I think. Number 2.
What's going to happen if I do that?
What's going to happen? What's number 3?
How do I overcome the challenges that I have here? Those are...
How do I overcome? Listen to my typing.
Those are all basically asking exactly the same question in a different fashion. If you ask that question 3 different ways, then the person you're talking to will think about it from 3 different angles, and they'll give it more thought, and they'll give you a better answer, and they will appreciate the fact that you helped them think it through.
Loud typing. Yes, this microphone picks up at all angles. So instead of playing like, oh, guilt tripping the other person to care about your feelings and whatnot, you just throw these questions at them, these calibrated questions. Janet comes way after we finished all the good stuff. But we welcome Janet. The meeting can now start.
Hi there,
Calibrated
everyone.
questions. What do people think? Is that too advanced? Let me get the slide up. Calibrated questions are creating the illusion of control, but what it is actually doing empathetically, it's forcing empathy on the other person, tactically almost. It's guiding the other person's attention, and it's getting them to help with the workload, in addition to forcing them to consider your workload, your situation. So he said, how am I supposed to do that? This one. And then he also said, what's going to happen if I do that? How do I overcome the challenges I have here? These are we things, like how can we solve this problem? So if you want to collaborate more, what are we trying to accomplish here? What's the objective? What is it that brought us into the situation? How would you like me to proceed? And you just throw that out there and you let it sink in. Don't give answers. Stop fucking rescuing. Stop fucking fixing. Make them fix. Make them try.
So
Make
question.
them struggle. Jamal.
Question. Yeah. What if they're like, their solution is something like completely unrealistic?
Well, then you say, how am I supposed to do that? And you stonewall. You ask for details.
Okay. Or maybe it's better.
Or first you mirror and get it right. So you have to string it out. So it's unrealistic. Then you say, you mirror like, oh, you want me, you said this, blah, blah, blah. And then you can also label their emotions. You say, sounds like this and this and that, and that. Then you summarize. And then you say, oh, how am I supposed to do that? And you just stonewall there. So if they're giving something unrealistic, maybe you haven't listened to them properly. You haven't gotten to 3, 4, 5. You haven't been a good mirror. You haven't labeled their pain. So they're dumping it all onto you. If you do the setup with being a mirror, labeling their pain, disarming all their charges, labeling all the potential negatives on you and just throwing that out there, he calls it accusation audit. I usually agree and amplify to sort of discharge the excess emotion. If your summary is right, then you throw it onto them to force them to have empathy on you. And that's like you stonewall with the 3 questions. How am I supposed to do that? What's going to happen if I do that? And how do I overcome the challenges that I have here? So that's like playing stupid. I understand your problem, but I don't know how to do it. I'm stupid. Tell me how to do it. Or I don't understand. Just stay stupid. And don't budge. Stay in silence. Just don't rescue.
Let's put the thinking on them, so to speak.
Yes. So it's creating the illusion of control for them, but it's actually workload. They actually want you to do the emotional work, but now you've flipped it on them, where they want control, but then they don't realize that by accepting control, they have to do the work.
So question, Dave, how do we remove the emotion of like frustration or reaction while we do that? Like, how do we remain just calm?
Whose side? Your side or their side?
On our side, because we're the ones asking the questions, right?
You remain calm by shutting the fuck up and growing the fuck up.
That's hard. How do we do that?
That was Monita's input, and then she left.
I have a lot to say.
She threw in the truth bomb and she left. So.
Okay, so we play dumb and we ask questions, right?
Well, you got to self-manage yourself too. Yes, so that's an issue.
Right.
So
Okay.
self-manage yourself. If you get good at being a mirror, then you become invisible. So then your anxiety goes down.
Yeah. So
if you
in that,
continually cut off and escape, your anxiety is always high. You want to neutralize your anxiety by listening better and staying engaged. You can stay engaged and be invisible by mirroring. And then you label their pain by saying, sounds like this, sounds like that. You try to list all the different moods that they have, which disarms their emotion.
Makes sense.
Then your anxiety goes down.
Self-reflection. Yeah.
Because you're forcing them to self-reflect.
That's true. Yeah, that seems like a healthy approach because a lot of times, you know, at least in the past, I used to find myself trying to jump into coming up solutions for myself and the other person, which seems ridiculous, and then end up being frustrated because I'm like, why didn't they come up with their own solutions? Like, did you give them a minute? No, I didn't. So that's a great reflection.
No, if you come up with a solution, they can always blame you if it doesn't work, or they can just stonewall, or they say the solution isn't good enough. So you flip it around and make them come up with the solution, and then you can stonewall.
Right. Yeah, I guess that is what I'm trying to ask. So I get the first part of, like, you know, mirroring and reflecting and just allowing them to do the processing and the work, like thinking, emotional processing, and all that good stuff. So how do we encourage people coming up with their own solutions instead of waiting for?
Well, you missed the earlier part of the meeting. So mirroring helps other people think. So it's not just listening, you're helping them connect their thoughts by making them talk and explain their perspective at multiple ways.
I see.
And then when you're labeling the emotion, you're helping them reflect about their emotion inside. So you're helping them link their thoughts and link it to their emotional needs. Yeah. And then when you summarize, now that's verifying that that their thought is complete, or that at least they took a position.
Yeah.
So then you flip it around and you give calibrated questions to force them to come up with a solution instead of you doing it.
Yeah. Wow.
In 2 miles, take exit 4 for Seminary Road West.
Sorry.
Seminary Road. So here's a role play, which is good for parents and maybe good for relationships, because
thanks for answering that.
Essentially, your narcissist or difficult person's a teenager in a grown-up body. So same emotions, but maybe better language.
What we're going to do now is we're going to do another negotiation exercise. This time I'm going to be your dad. You're going to be a 16-year-old girl. Your boyfriend, Ryan, has invited you to go to the lake house with his family for the weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, and you previously got an invitation to go to the lake house for a party, and I found out that his parents weren't going to be there, so I wouldn't let you go. And you want to go and be with your boyfriend over the weekend at the lake.
Okay.
All right.
So this is a professional actor. She's playing teenage girl. She wants to go with a boyfriend. Father doesn't trust the family, doesn't want to let her go. Okay? Now this is back and forth.
Since you're a trained actor, then I would like you to do as much as you can to channel your inner 16-year-old girl and react as much as you think a 16-year-old girl would actually react.
Okay. Hey, Dad. Ryan's parents invited me to their lake house for the weekend, for Labor Day weekend.
Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan.
Ryan's parents?
Yeah, his parents. His parents are going to be there for the weekend.
For the weekend?
Uh-huh.
Mirroring. Simple.
Yeah, for Labor Day weekend.
For the whole weekend?
Uh-huh, with him and his parents.
For Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, for Labor Day weekend. They wanted to know if I could go.
So, you're going to think that I'm the worst father that ever lived. You're going to hate me. You're going to tell me that I'm ruining your life. I want to spend the weekend with you. Labor Day weekend is a big deal to me.
Dad, I mean, I just want to go with them, okay? This is kind of a big deal that they asked me, okay, to spend the weekend on the lake. Like, we can spend the weekend together any time. And, you know, it's important that I go.
It's important that you go.
Yeah, it's important that I go.
What makes it important?
Because.
So mirroring, and then now calibrated question to get to the emotion. What makes it so important? She's made her stand. I want to go, want to go, want to go, want to go. Why is it so important?
It's like, you know, a big step in Ryan and, you know.
A big step?
Yeah, because his parents, like, you know, are accepting me or whatever. They asked me to go. They're being nice. They like me.
They like you?
Yeah, they like me. And Ryan likes me, and so they want me to spend the weekend with them.
How am I supposed to go along with that?
How am I supposed to go along with that? That's it. Nothing more.
I don't know what the big deal is.
Yeah, so I go away for the weekend. It's not like we're staying in the same room or anything.
How do I know where you're going to stay?
Because his parents are going to be there.
They're going to be there the whole time.
Yeah, his parents are going to be there the whole time.
You're all going to sit around in the living room together and stare at each other for the entire weekend.
I guess, or go on the lake, on the boat, or whatever.
Have you been there before?
No, because you wouldn't let me go before. Remember? They had a party there, and I couldn't go to the party.
Yeah, so it sounds like Ryan's parents don't actually keep that close track of him.
They
So spun around a little. Are you going to be here? Are you going to be here? Is parent going to be with you 24/7? Got some info. Then says, sounds like. And that's a test to see if she's going to say it's the right emotion.
Dude, they're going to be there this whole weekend.
They let him throw a party at the house over the weekend where they weren't even there.
Right. So they allowed him to do that.
So it sounds like they're really not around him all that much.
Well,
So she countered the first sounds like. He gave more evidence. Repeated the sounds like. They're not going to be around.
You're going to be there this weekend.
And what makes this important again?
It's just important, Dad, because it shows that they asked me. They asked me to go. And don't you want me to have fun to go?
Sounds like it's important to you what Ryan's parents think of you.
Well,
So she's making a plea that the parents are important. No, so she's going to flip from that angle. Oh, sounds like the parents liking you is important.
I guess.
So it's not important. You don't care what they think.
I do care what they think.
She said, I guess, so that's no. That's she's lying. He's pointing out she's lying, but not telling her. She's admitting it.
I do care what they think, so it is important, okay? It's important what they think of me, okay? It's important what Ryan thinks of me, all right? And then it's important what you think of Ryan, because he's going to think that you don't like him, and his parents are going to think that you don't like him if you don't let me go.
And now that she's trying to flip it around onto him. All his parents, and he's going to think you're a bad guy and that you don't like them if you don't let me go. How's he respond?
What makes this important?
It's just...
It goes back to her, flips it, doesn't even respond. What makes this as important?
Important, Dad, because, I don't know. What if, Ryan's like, oh, that's weird. She can't go this weekend. Her dad won't let her go, and then he's like, oh, maybe I'll get a different girlfriend, somebody whose dad lets her hang out with me. That's important,
Sounds like you really don't trust Ryan.
It's not.
So she made an argument saying, oh, if I don't go, he'll break up with me and get another girlfriend. And then he countered. What was his counter?
Lets her hang out with me. That's important,
Sounds like you really don't trust Ryan.
Sounds like you really don't trust Ryan. Pretty good.
It's not that I don't trust him, I trust him.
Sounds like he's not that dedicated to you.
I don't...
Sounds like
this is like crazy making.
I don't know, Dad, whatever. Maybe he is. I don't know. Of course he's dedicated. Okay? I just want to go.
So how does this affect your future?
Oh, that's good. Future. How does this matter in the big picture? Why is this so important? You're acting like this is the end of the world. But she's not making that judgment. He's just saying, oh, so how does this affect your future?
Then it would be good because I would have fun and have a nice weekend. And then Ryan and I would be boyfriend and girlfriend for a long time.
So as long as you have fun and have a nice weekend, you don't have to go to the lake.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So how does he really feel about you?
He loves me, Dad. We love each other.
How do you know?
Because he says it. He said it. And he's inviting me to go.
So that seems really important to you.
Yeah.
What is him inviting you to the lake for the weekend? How's that important? What does that mean?
It means that, I'm, they're taking me into their family, to be part of their family, that they're accepting me.
And so what's the next step after that?
I don't know, Dad, that whatever, that we're together.
Together?
Together.
That we're going out, that we're all the time, that we're in love, Dad. I don't know what's going to happen, okay? I'm not saying we're going to get married or anything.
So how much does he really care about you?
He cares about me a lot.
And you mean a lot to him.
I do.
It sounds like you're worried about what he'll do if you're not there.
I'm not worried, okay? I'm not worried. I'm not worried if I'm not there, okay?
So,
oh, that's an opening. I'm not worried if I'm not there. She already said that there's a door. Her life isn't going to fall apart if she's not there. Is he going to take that opening?
It's not that big of a deal to not go?
It's a big deal to go.
So I'm going to be a horrible person that ruined your whole life if I don't let you go.
I guess not. I don't know.
Well, I care about you. I care about the decisions that you make and the decisions that you don't make. And I don't think it's a good idea for you to go.
Why not?
Well, his parents, these are the same people that let him throw a wild party at the lake over the weekend, and they weren't there at all. It doesn't sound to me like they're watching that closely. It doesn't sound like he feels particularly accountable to his parents.
So I'm like 16, Dad. I'm going to be an adult in like 2 years.
Yes, and you'll be able to make all those decisions for yourself in 2 years. And in the meantime, it's my job to protect you.
Fine.
Fine.
All right. We'll stop.
Worst father ever.
That was sped up because it's normally like 10.5 minutes. And also if I put this on YouTube, it'll catch the right speed version. So I had to change the speed so I have less editing later. But what did he do? Mirror a couple questions, just didn't fight or stood his ground, but didn't give her something to fight back.
He exhausted her mentally so she couldn't fight back anymore.
But eventually she admitted that it wasn't the end of the world. That was her original argument.
No, I understand, but what he did was, it looked to me like it was like mental acrobats, and he just tired her out until she shut up.
Was tired her out to shut up, but she couldn't find any counters.
Yeah, and I admit that he was cool and calm, but it seemed to me that it was condescending and crazy making and mental gymnastics that just, I realize it's a father-daughter thing, but if you look at a different kind of relationship, it's just exhausting.
Exhausting for?
Because he just took her into this whirlwind with asking her the same questions over and over. It's like it's just a mental game.
Asking the same questions is a mental game? Why so?
It just seemed to me like it just seemed crazy making.
So it's crazy making for his side or the teenage girl side?
Crazy making for her. Like he just kept saying the same things. And
so the teenage girl is feeling crazy making. That's your argument.
like, and just broke down. So she's like, just forget it.
So how many people are seeing that I'm mirroring Stacy?
Oh, okay.
How many people, Stacy's making an argument that it's crazy making being mirrored. Does Stacy look like she's getting crazy making when I'm mirroring her?
No, but I'm very relaxed.
See, that's what mirroring does. It doesn't create crazy making. The teenager was getting crazy making because she wanted to manipulate the father and she wasn't finding a way.
I guess the utility of that situation got a little draining because at some point, why does one need to really engage for that long for that kind of decision?
Well, this was an actor, so
yeah,
we didn't have a genuine teenager, so the actor is trying to act up being a teenager. And
I had 4 teenagers at once, and that was nothing. They would wear me out. Yeah, that was like a short conversation. I wish I had these tactics back then.
Right. Wow.
A teenager has like raw teenage energy, so they'll just try to emotionally exhaust the parent to get a win.
And they did. They won a lot.
Yeah, I would never have engaged. I mean, I don't engage that long with my teenager. I just say, that's it. So.
And you have 4 of them ganging up on you, it's hard. Yeah. And 2 are now narcissists, so.
But when you're mirroring, it's not that much energy.
Yeah, I wish I had these points, these tactics back then. I would have saved myself a lot of anguish.
It's not just mirroring. So Chris Voss had his stance. I'm your father. I think it's dangerous because his parents are whatever, absent, and there's a history. And that's a good stance. That's a solid thing. But he didn't just keep repeating that. He mirrored, tried to give body to the daughter stance. And then before he mentioned his stance, he said, "You're going to hate me." So that the teenage daughter couldn't say, "I hate you." You're going to hate me. You're going to say I'm the worst father ever. You're going to think that I'm ruining your life. And then he presents his side. So first he lists every single negative accusation before the daughter can throw it back at it. And then the daughter has no bullets.
Oh, interesting.
And the daughter just says, "Oh, I just want to go. That's why." So she couldn't just flip it around and say, "You're evil, you're bad." This other father would do it. He labeled it in advance, took out all the bullets. So that's the bullets falling down. The Matrix analogy.
Interesting.
So if you know your hooks, you know what somebody else would say to you. You're a bad mother, you're a bad person, you're ugly, you're short, no one wants you, you're stupid, whatever. You can throw that out before they can use it against you, and it discharges the weapon because you've already said it. It discharges the insult. No bullets. And you can sort of see the other person squirm because they had their go-to hook for you and you discharged it. Someone else is driving. People have such a life. I'm stuck in
You
the
want
basement.
a good example of that, and it's just going to show my age, is that movie with Eminem in it when he was having a rap battle.
9 Mile, 8 Mile.
And before he got back, you know what I'm talking about? Does anybody know the movie I'm talking about?
I've watched it way back when, but it's so long
Yeah,
ago.
back in the like 80s or 90s, and before the other rapper could like attack him, he put all his junk
Oh yeah,
out
the
there
rap
first.
battling, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you label all the stuff in advance. So then the person has to use their brain to come up with something new. Because when we're fighting, we want to be fast. We don't want to be thinking of new stuff. So. Nice road noise. Ugh. So how do we wrap this up?
What should we do?
About what? What's
I mean,
confusing? You stay at 1 and 2. Oh, my microphone. You stay at 1 and 2. Unmute and share.
She's all wet. Look at her.
So go into last week. Last week we had 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, you are, little girl. Did you like that?
Who's got that? Okay, Leslie's muted. So codependents want to jump to 4. What do I do next? What's the coping strategy? What's the fix? Or you argue on whose story is better. These are tools to stay you at number 1 and number 2. And number 2 is their gut. Stop focusing on your feelings. No, narcissist doesn't care about your feelings, and the world doesn't care about your trauma. The world is cold. Victims get punished. Or no, they don't get punished, they get ignored. It's a winner take all in America. We have an invisible lower class. We've always been a master slave population. Now you just have debt slaves or job slaves. Not much has changed. So work on your own gut and your own story, not with a narcissist. They don't care, and they're going to use it against you. So stay at 1 and 2. Be objective, help them think out, help them think through the objective, help them think through the reflective, then use calibrated questions to force them to have empathy for you by creating the illusion of control. So you're helping them do 1, 2, 3, and then you're forcing them to have 2 on you, reflective. And then the decisions will magically become better because you trap them with reality, because reality always wins eventually. Easy? No? What? Not easy? Hard?
I think for me it's a bit hard for the whole forcing of empathy.
Calibrated questions?
I mean, I understand the calibrated questions, and they make sense in theory. I guess also because my experience is like, again, they'll kind of trap themselves in circles, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm very like reactive myself, and I don't know how to push forward without feeling like I need to have a solution. But
you have to, or my style of forcing empathy is agree and amplify. So going hot. That works really good with borderlines. Let me get a bigger side of it.
Going hot as in like just making it more intense?
No, spotlight on you. Play victim, but overplay it. Let me get a better slide there, or not. So freeze is cold strategies. Both of these strategies are victim strategies, but these are better victim strategies. It's owning your victimhood and staying in it. Competitive victimhood is like, I'm the victim, that means you have to work for me. That's not this victimhood. This is on your humanity. So the freeze things of being silent and invisible and mirroring, sort of the cold side. Forcing empathy is sort of the hot side of being a victim. So you can be a victim of how great you are. This is fun, but this is hard. But first you do negative. So you martyr yourself. You agree of how much you suck. So if you don't do the accusation audit and list all the negatives, you take in the negative, whatever the other person throws at you. You're a loser, you're stupid, you're not good enough, you're short, you're tall, you're broke, you're ugly, you're what are some other common things? You're a bad boyfriend, you're a bad son, you're a bad father, you're a loser, you're hopeless, blah, blah, blah. Right? Those are common hooks. So you agree, you accept it. Then you amplify it. You add gasoline. So you don't just go hot. You blow up. You burn up, but you burn up inside. You don't burn up them. Spotlight all on me. And then you self-deflate, you martyr yourself, you wallow yourself, you take the spotlight, put it all on you as a victim. And then you just amplify the fuck out of it. I suck, I'm hopeless, I'm sad, I'm suicidal, I don't know what to do, I'm the worst ever. And you just become dead weight. And you just stonewall there. And you invite the borderline to join you, and they'll be terrified because they can't own their suck. not to this level. And it's emotional chicken. So I did some of this with last Saturday. I did some of this, I suck, but I also did this. I said, you suck. Yeah, you're retarded. And then, oh, that must suck to be so retarded. And then I sort of self-inflated. Oh, don't worry about covetousness. That must really suck. But that's advanced.
I think I believe that too much for me to use that effectively.
No, you have to realize that it's a spotlight battle. So victimhood is a battle. So if you accept that they're the victim, then you play the rescue role. Now you're on the hook to do the work. That's the illusion of control. That's the calibrated questions. You flip it around where you're the bigger victim. Now they have to do the work.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense.
Well, why don't you like it?
Like, well, the whole idea of like being the spotlight is already stressful. And then the idea of like having to out-victim somebody.
No, you don't have to out-victim. You just have to stonewall. You stay in your spotlight. You don't need to steal the spotlight from them. You just put the attention on your spotlight and amplify. The gasoline you're pouring yourself creates a bigger spotlight. You don't need to wrestle it from them. You're sort of doing it, but it's not that much work.
Okay. I guess that goes back to the whole feeling guilty about like having my own desires, and that makes the concept difficult for me.
Well, you label that. So you're doing the Chris Voss stuff on yourself. You're labeling your own desires to yourself. You can witness yourself. You can be your own parent.
Yeah.
Or I'm witnessing. Say, okay, you have desires and you're guilty about it. Let's sit with that. Let's neutralize the charge that you have that by expressing your desires, there's danger. Share your desires. I don't care. Or I'll try to attack you and make it dangerous, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to simulate your childhood danger. Having desires is being human. So what's dangerous? That was your argument, right? Feels uncomfortable, is dangerous. What don't you like? What can't you do? What feels impossible?
A lot of things, but yeah, and like I said, it makes sense. I just have to like, I'm still working on accepting that I'm allowed to have desires and I can express things without it leading to like a near-death experience. So
it sounds like you need to have some practice.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of our practice, not against a narcissist or borderline, with more of a neutral party, right? So that you can neutralize this charge of feeling danger about sharing your desires. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Close?
I'm trying to figure that part out.
See, and then I'm trying to force you to have empathy with yourself. With labeling, right? Then I'm going to try to throw in a Richard Grandinbaum. So Grannon will visit us again here in this truth bomb.
The truth is that you always need a kind of exposure therapy. So I would develop it, the ability, and then I'd go out and use it, and then I get burnt, and it hurts, and it's risky. But over time, with repetition, you build calluses, and you build the skill of it. There are no cerebral solutions to this. It's an action thing. You have to do it, and your brain's not stupid. You can't just NLP it and go, oh, you're confident now, because your brain will be like, no, we're not. That's nonsense. You have to build reference experiences over time, and it does take time. It does take effort. It's not an easy process, but very, very rewarding. Extremely rewarding.
Richard.
Very rewarding, but you'll have to build calluses based on Richard Grannon's life experience. Stacy's up or not. Probably looking at a text or something. Something more exciting than this meeting.
Uh-oh.
Oh, see?
Just
Stacy's got to
texted
go.
you.
Something's more exciting. Yeah.
The kids.
We got enough material.
Not more exciting. I just have to go tend to my kitties. Thank you, Dave.
More exciting.
Yeah, this is a good class. Thank you.
Let it sink in. Bye, Stacy. Any other closing comments before we stop the formal part of the meeting? Freeze is a tough sell because you were punished by being a victim, or you were punished by being human growing up. So you hid your humanity.
Right. We're taught to help. You know, if somebody needs you, be there for them. And then a vulture of a narcissist comes in for the friggin' kill and sucks you dry. And you gotta like fish your way out of that one. And by the way, I'm 3 months no contact today.
3 months.
I'm feeling real positive that never again.
Months.
Never again.
Baby steps. Baby steps. That's all. So you put yourself second. We're losing Steph. Okay, bye, Steph. You put yourself second growing up, and then you forget your humanity. So you've been neglecting and ignoring your inner self and your humanity. So that's why you hurt so much. That's why you want to overshare. That's why you're such an annoying person to everybody. That's why all this stuff is hard. But once you reclaim your humanity and you can own it, a lot of the tips and all the stuff is so much easier.
And you stop trying to save the world.
Yes, you join the rest of the world and you just don't give a fuck.
You don't
about
save them.
Other people's trauma because everybody else doesn't
save
give
the
a
world.
fuck.
Right.
Let the
Stop
world
buying
handle
everything.
The world.
Stop right.
Yeah, easy. Harsh, yes, for Beth and any other new people. But this is trying to pack in like 10 years of therapy into one couple hours. So this is very condensed truth bombs. Or just take Monita's truth bomb. Shut the fuck up and grow the fuck up. Was that it?
It helps, though. I would rather do it this way than sit in a therapist chair for a year.
Yes.